So how mad is this? It is the last ever ups and downs I will do for a television program in the wrestling space before John Cena retires. Now, of course, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about John Cena's retirement show at Saturday night's main event. But I just want to throw in some corny lines in there as well, because John Cena, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the GOATs. He is one of the best wrestlers ever. And even when he was getting booed like 10 or so years ago, it still made wrestling fun. And that's the whole point of sports entertainment. You're meant to enjoy yourself. You're meant to have a good time. And at the end of the night, you're meant to go, oh my gosh, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do it again. I will, of course, give my big old speech tomorrow when I do wake up and I actually have the feelings right in my tum-tum. But I just wanted to throw it out there as well, as we get to this episode of SmackDown, and I ask you, my friends, what the hell are the laws and regulations when it does come to SmackDown? Because we had Nick Aldis saying, Drew McIntyre, I really would like it if you would come to SmackDown, because we haven't been able to speak, even though Drew's been suspended. When he bumped into Cody and he said, do you know what this is? It's a letter from Drew McIntyre's lawyer saying, oh, it's an unsafe working environment, and maybe he's going to take us to court. Now, thankfully, Cody took this and just threw it away, because yeah, you could go to trial, or whatever the flub it would be, and all you need to do is show Drew McIntyre trying to commit murder on Cody Rhodes' bus, and the whole thing would be thrown out. Also, hello, my friends. But yes, welcome to Ups and Downs for WWE SmackDown. And today, I think I may give this SmackDown 7 ups. That's a very niche reference. If you get it, great. If you don't worry about it. I am being a stupid moron. Also, it's professional idiot, okay? Professional idiot. I put that down there all of the time. But we do have to talk about SmackDown, which had nothing to do with Saturday night's main event, really, but there's still stuff we can get into. And do not forget, this video is sponsored by Norton. Once again, in the description down there, you'll find a bunch of links. You can get up to 73% off or 72% off. It's a lot, though. You're also going to be able to protect yourself when you go online and, of course, choose which locales you watch professional wrestling from, and I'll just leave it there. I'm sure you can figure it out. Let's up those doubts. Cody did storm to the ring after this as well, and he was like, Drew McIntyre, you absolutely suck. And you know what? You're only half in when it comes to wrestling, and you need to be all in to be the WWE champion, which is a very interesting way to put it. Essentially, Drew McIntyre needs to do more media, when he was like, if I owned this company, I'd fire you, but I can't do that, so instead I'm gonna kick your ass. Of all the people, he was interrupted by Fami. So I was doing the dance of joy, because I flipping love this guy. I've loved this guy for a while because he just gets it, or he's just one of those people you gravitate towards, or at least I do, when it comes to wrestling. And it's not like he says anything brand new, but it's the way he delivers it. I'm like, seriously guys, I don't know what we're doing, but we need to belt this guy up right now. He was a little bit irked as well, because here is Cody Rhodes talking about Drew McIntyre, and you should be talking about the guy stood in front of you right now, because we are fighting in a few hours' time. And look, here's a couple of deals. I am the future, I am the conqueror, and given that John Cena is about to retire, your time is up, and my time is now. And listen, I love Cody Rhodes. I think he is a wonderful top babyface for WWE. But I was sat there going, yeah, sorry, guys. Sorry, Cody, it's over for you. Fami gonna kill you. Now, Cody was sort of impressed, but he was like, okay, great, you're dropping John Cena quotes, but it was I that beat Mr. Cena at SummerSlam, and he was going to leave, and Fami stopped him, which did get a reaction from the crowd, and he held up his NXT World Championship, so Cody Rhodes held up his WWE Championship. And while we do that in wrestling a lot, I'm just gonna tell you straight, it's really weird. This just absolutely worked. It was nothing over the top. It was just basically, well, I would say introducing Fami to the main roster audience, but I think they already know who he was, because they were doing the whole oof during his promo, which I also love, and I love his entrance when he's got that dance. Seriously, he is just great. Once again, to go back to what I just said, new people come along from time to time, and sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't. I could not be on the Fami train any more than I already am, and given the other people that have essentially been called up by NXT for this one episode of SmackDown, well, Lash legend, she feels permanent now, I just think we got to pull the trigger. It just makes the whole damn thing still so fresh, and you get excited. And listen, not everyone is going to become the biggest superstar ever, but you throw things at the wall and you do try. Anyway, like I say, I'll talk about that in just a little bit. I am giving it an up, and if it was me with the pen, to use stupid wrestling lingo, I would have Fami win. But we did talk about Drew McIntyre a lot here, and again, he was invited to the show. I have a feeling he'll probably interfere, and maybe that helps Cody by accident, or maybe it does help Fami, which would be interesting, but we wait and see. Either way, I am giving it an up. Call Fami up right now. Fraxian then found Ilja Dragunov backstage and said, listen, Ilja, we will come to the ring with you, as you are about to fight Tommaso Ciampa, because you know that DIY will be running around. I was like, do you not know, Ilja? He had like a meltdown last week when he realized by accident somebody had interfered on his behalf, and he was like that too. He was like, no, John Cena would never do this, so I'm not going to do it either. I'm sure you can figure it out. We went right into this as well, the US Title Open Challenge, and it was Ciampa versus Ilja Dragunov. And you know the deal, the same every single week. Backstage, they must have gone, right, here's the plan. I'm going to try and kill you, and you're going to try and kill me. And if one of us does end up dying, well, so be it. I mean, some of the boots that Dragunov gave this man, I was almost ready to sign up for Face Off 2. Ilja was running around so fast on the outside too, he basically catapulted himself into Ciampa the Still steps after Tommaso Ciampa kind of did a nope thingamajig, when Tommaso grabbed him and he suplexed Ilja Dragunov into those things. And then after that, Ilja was limping around. And I was like, well, no shib, Sherlock. And even later on when he was trying to do moves like 3 German suplexes, he wasn't able to do it because he didn't have a foot. Ciampa loved that as well, and he started air raid crashing this guy all over the place, including into the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, when he had an avalanche version and he got a 1-2. Now, I will say this, even though this has had a few weeks of build, which I do appreciate, I never actually thought that Tommaso Ciampa was going to get the victory, so maybe that's something we need to address going forward. But at the same time, who the flub cares? This was an actual war. As soon as Ilja was able to get the Torpedo Moscow as well, of course, out came Johnny Gargano. And good grief, did DIY have a plan, because he cast distractions and put a 1 on the dick board. The referee was like, this has never happened before, even though it has. I don't know what to do. When Candice Michelle was here, she attacked Ilja Dragunov, and my gosh, Tommaso Ciampa also stole it. They only got a 1-2. So fair play to WWE because they really tried to convince you. And yes, when Tommaso went for the fairy tale ending, Ilja Dragunov's brain said, I think we're in a pickle here, Ilja. Make sure you use the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, surprise roll-up. And he did get the 1-2-3. And of course, DIY attacked him instantly. And that rhymes, so it must be true. And fair play to Fraxium. They did not come out. They must have sat backstage and go, well, he did say no. Instead, though, we sent Carmelo Hayes out there, who got an awesome babyface reaction, and he cleared the deck before he shook hands with Ilja. And honestly, in 2026, not only should Melo be on the push list, but I actually think he should be the guy to defeat Dragunov for that US title after I presume we do some tags. But that is like the outside greater good to all of this. Carmelo Hayes is being used constantly, and it is working because Carmelo Hayes, going back to our conversation earlier, also just has something, and you want to see what he's going to do. The Open Challenge is also brilliant. And I suppose if you really had balls, for lack of a better term, you could allow Dragunov to hold this all the way through to WrestleMania, because then that's going to mean something huge. I'm giving it up. I mean, once again, it was just an actual fight. John Evans was then talking about the fact that he is going to be teaming up with Leon Slater to take on AJ Styles and Dragon Lee on Saturday Night's main event, when The Miz walked in and he hit play on his tape recorder in his head, because he said the same thing he always says, I should be on John Cena's retirement show, and now I'm mad. Javon was like, well, you're not, bro, so why don't we have a fight later? I was like, well, that's not fair. He has to be in this match in a few hours' time, and nobody else is fighting, so Styles and Dragon Lee were probably having a party. Towards the end of this as well, we got some spooky wookiness, so you know what that means. The Wyatt Sicks were here, and actually they came to the ring and cut a promo, and maybe my brain is deceiving me, but I was like, I don't think they've done this in months. Uncle Howdy went right after Solo Sikoa, of course, who has been being an asshat recently, and it was all like, you walk around calling the MFTs your family, but we all know what your real family did. They turned their back on you because they thought you sucked. Of course, he was talking about the bloodline. He also thought it was hilarious the MFTs say they run SmackDown. I was a bit like, dude, to be fair, every single heel on the roster says that, but they are not ever going to be able to claim that position because they don't hold the tag team championships. Like, dude, I like the tag team titles, but let's be honest, they're having a great 2025, and having those belts does not mean you run SmackDown. He did say they were happy to defend these tag team titles though, when Solo Sikoa walked out instantly, or at least somebody pushed play on his music, because instead he appeared on the big screen, and he's like, listen, I do call the shots, and nobody likes you, by the way, Uncle Howdy, but everybody most definitely likes me. He didn't say that, but he should have done. It would have made it the feud of the year. Instead, he basically accepted this challenge and he told Unc to run, which of course was trying to evoke to Bray Wyatt, so we're leaning into that hard. And I do like this, and I do like the fact finally we're going to get to the title shot, but it's kind of like a lot of feuds on SmackDown. They've been going back and forth for a little while, and it's entertaining in within itself, but also you kind of worry when we do get to the other side, has anybody actually properly benefited? As you do know, though, I am a huge fan of Solo. I just think he is effortlessly entertaining, and the Wyatt Sicks should be presented like this more, aside from vanishing, which happens all the time. Though I do not get why Nikki Cross is not in the women's division yet, because my gosh, the women's division needs bodies, and not only is she really good, but obviously she has a very specific gimmick. So, I am going to give it an up, but I am going to get back to this later too when we get to our main event, because I kind of think it all ties in. But as we are getting to the end of the year, do you know who is absolutely going to be on my 10 favourite wrestler list, and not necessarily best before you go crazy? It's going to be my man Solo Sikoa, that dude rules. Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, I think, were then using their MP bars to buff Alexa Bliss, because they were like, oh man, you're going to do so well in your match against Lash Legend. When for some reason, Ripley walked in and said, oh yeah, that's great, mate, but don't forget it's me and the Io Sky that want those tag team titles. And Charlotte and Alexa were like, no, we're going to win the tag titles. They're not Australian. I don't know why I did say that. When Rhea was like, well, good luck with your match, Alexa. Alexa was like, well, good luck with your match, Rhea. Looked around, I was like, what the flub is going on? It was next though, we were going to do Alexa Bliss versus Lash Legend. I want to say a couple of things here. First of all, I don't know who made the call. I went to Charlotte Flair and said, Charlotte, just be yourself on TV. But this character shift has been absolutely brilliant. She is a delight to watch, which is a terrible thing for me to say out loud. It makes me sound 79 years old, but she's relaxed and she's funny and she's got the quips and her chemistry with Alexa Bliss is really good. I am a big fan of this team. Also, point number 2, she was taking on Lash Legend, and this is what we should have done a couple of weeks ago. Lash absolutely threw Alexa Bliss around, and of course Lash is super jacked and Alexa Bliss is not a big person, so you had that dynamic going on, and by the time this was done, where you could talk about Fami and you could talk about Javon Evans, it's the same old deal. I got my big pipe out, whatever that means. I was like, for goodness sake, put them all on SmackDown. She also threw Alexa into Timmy the Timekeeper's table at one point, and even when Alexa tried to fight back, Ledge would just grab her and throw her into the floor. When, of course, Nia Jax was like, well, I am here live on WWE, so I should probably trip her. And poor old Bliss went right into the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. And that's when Charlotte gave Nia Jax a super kick. But Lash Legend just saw all of this. She was like, I don't care. She booted Charlotte right in the face. She got back in the ring. She reversed the DDT. She hit the Lash extension, which is the greatest move for a finisher of all time. And she just beat Alexa Bliss. Now, if you weren't aware of Lash Legend, because you're not an XT fan, this was the moment when you would have gone, well, we should keep an eye on that person. She just killed a bunch of people. The forearm she gave Alexa Bliss before all this too sent her into the Phantom Zone. And I think it's called the last minute or something ridiculous. But this is the kind of performance we needed, and it's absolutely the performance we should carry on. I have no idea why her and Nia Jax are friends. We've kind of lent away from that, but at least he's taken the women's tag team division and given it a bunch of depth. As once again, you know, if you watch my shows, I like the women's tag team division, because anytime WWE does let it fly, it always cooks. I am giving this an up. This is how you treat somebody from NXT to get them across to a main roster audience. And listen, it's not the right home about, it's not the best thing ever, but it was nice, simple booking. Fingers crossed, it's all going to pay off in 2026. Let's just copy and paste that for The Miz versus Javon Evans 2, and fair play to The Miz, who is just a brilliant professional wrestler that nobody talks about, and he has been able to keep his star power alive, or something like that, for all those years, so the fact that Javon beat him, I was just clapping. And actually, this did have jeopardy, because it was The Miz in WWE. I was like, oh man, do not screw him before Saturday night's main event. This is nothing new either, but watching Javon jump around the place is absolutely ridiculous. At one point, I thought he was going to end up on the moon, and the dive he did towards the end put a 1 on the dive counter. He just flew over that top rope. Like, if he was in the Olympics or something, he probably would have won a gold medal. That's a ridiculous thing for me to say, but you take my point. The Miz started hitting John Cena moves at one point, and I did enjoy the fact that we had this thread running through the show. Just made you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. But when Javon went for the OG cutter, the Miz caught him and went for the skull-crushing finale, and everyone's like, no, man, that's not going to happen. He basically then got the OG cutter, and even then I thought the Miz is going to kick out, but he didn't. Javon got the 1, 2, 3. And while I now expect Leon and Javon to lose later, if we could just keep him on Friday night and push him as a mega big deal, I think it's going to serve everyone. But given that Ricky Starks has screwed him over on NXT, that's probably not going to happen. It really should, though, with Oba and Lash Legend, like I can run that into the ground. But I am giving it an up. Once again, we'll probably forget about this in a couple of weeks. But giving you an eye into the future and remind you that The Miz is brilliant. Don't care, man. It worked up. I think Nia Jax and Lash Legend then got word that Rhea Ripley was just walking around, especially because she's meant to be a Raw guy. So they went up to her and was like, nope, we don't like you at all, and we want to be the tag team champions. Rhea was like, well, nope, I've already had this conversation, and I and my friend want to be the tag team champions. So I have no idea what's going on here. Like, it's very, very confusing, but the next part was way better, because Jade Cargill walked in, and she looked at Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley looked at her. And of course, they didn't say anything, because they were professional wrestlers backstage. But this is a match we should get to in 2026. If you've got a bunch of dream bouts in your pockets, just do them. We then cut to Michin, who was about to have a match with Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill just totally whipped her ass, left her lane, walked to the ring, and was like, ha ha, no match for me, because I've told every single person on that women's roster, if you cross me, that's what's going to happen to you. When Michin walked out with Kenny the Kendo Stick, she got a couple of shots in, when Jade was like, nah, She dropped her with a choke slam. I have so many questions. My biggest one being, where the flub was BFAB? I thought the match was meant to be BFAB versus Jade Cargill, because we've teased that since about 1472. Also, anytime you see Michin, you see BFAB. So where did she go? And listen, I may have misheard something. That can happen, but I don't think even the commentators mentioned this. It was 2 + 2 equals potato. It was so confusing. Now, I actually do think all of this is good for Jade because she is coming across like a monster, and it is the definition of looking at her strengths and pushing them as hard as possible. But it's very much like Stephanie Vaquer on Raw. You have a champion on Monday nights, you have a champion on Friday nights. Neither of them are really involved with like a specific feud that we can build. And they kind of just bop around doing their own thing, but also not really doing anything at all. And also, I do want to point out that maybe something in the real world has gone down, which is why BFAB wasn't here, and that's way more important than wrestling. But back in the make-believe world of sports entertainment, you do have to give it a down. I just think the women's division on SmackDown needs a massive injection of something, and that does not mean ruining the women's tag team division. It means taking some extra bodies and throwing them in there, a la Nikki Cross and a bunch of other people I could throw at you right now. So it's not like terrible. It just needs something more, because at the moment it's kind of treading water, and that's not on the talent, it's just the story around it. There's not much to say. Also, this went on for about 5 minutes. Down. And speaking of weird feuds too, which goes back to what I was chatting about earlier, it was our main event, which was Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest taking on Zelina Vega and Aleister Black. And look, of course it was fun to see all these people together, even if it did go a little bit wibbly wobbly here and there. But I would assume this is the end of Damian Priest versus Aleister Black, which I do believe has been going on for 5 months, give or take. And I'll just use the same phrase I did do a few minutes ago. Have either of them really benefited? I'm a bit worried the answer is no. We'll also talk about that moment, because of course that's all anyone's going to be talking about, because yes, at one point, Zelina Vega was going to be riptide, and she reversed it into what I believe was going to be a code red, but both of them landed right on their heads. This was genuinely scary, and I worried that something had gone down, although they did just pop up and repeat the spot, so I assume they're okay. It's like I always tell you, I totally understand they're professional wrestlers, they're human beings, mistakes can happen, and as a dude who actually wrestles themselves, I can tell you, sometimes things do go off the rail, and you have no idea why, and I think we can just leave it there. Also, I'm pretty sure that Zelina Vega tweeted out or posted that she'd lost her uncle this week, so she probably wasn't in the right headspace either. Sometimes we can just be nice, because you know what's more important than wrestling? The people behind the wrestling characters. Well, something way more poetic than that. Aleister Black and Zelina Vega also did cool double moonsaults to the outside at one point, put one on the counter. I think that just inspired Rhea and Damian, because they were like, we can do double razors edges. And after that, Rhea just grabbed Zelina Vega, gave her the riptide 1, 2, 3. And if you didn't see that finish coming, we know what, more power to you, because you probably really enjoyed it. So it's really hard to know what to do here, because of course the chemistry between Zelina and Aleister is great, and Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest are just awesome together. But I don't think this worked as intended. Like, it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. But it also goes back to this feud itself, which hasn't really hit in the way it was intended. Like, Damian Priest ends 2025 nowhere near the position he was at the start, and I think he should get back there because he's super good. And ever since Aleister Black has debuted, once again the potential was there, and then we kind of hit pause on it for a little bit. I mean, there was a time when R-Truth was involved in this, and then we just did nothing. And Jacob too, but of course he had to go away to get his teeth fixed. So actually you could totally argue that this is a benefit of that extra hour, because we can let these things cook a little bit more, and it has left me in a strange position. I did enjoy it for what it was, so I am going to give it an up, but for all the other little bits that I am now going to throw into one nice little package, you do have to give it a down. SmackDown just needs to take some of these feuds and light a fire under their ass, which again, given where we are in the calendar year, I'm going to hope for 2026. It's also why I hope Fami should want Evidence and Lash Legends to just stay on Fridays. But I've said that 42 times now, and I've bored myself. Which brings us to the end of SmackDown, and it was a very strange show, because I can imagine a large portion of fans like, yeah, we don't care about this. We only care about John Cena, which is fair enough. Gonna give it one of these thumbs, once again, which I often do with SmackDown. But there was a lot to take away, like the US title open challenge and everything we did with the NXT guys. But also by the end of it, I don't think it was must-see viewing. I don't know what my counters were. I never count. But please let it be 7-ups, and opposed to other people's opinions, I will tell you, if you thought this SmackDown was terrible or you thought this SmackDown was good, more power to you, because I respect your opinion. Now, of course, you can let me know all of that in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe, and click the video on the screen, which is ups and downs for Monday Night Raw. And I do believe that's it. I am now going off to wrestle, but yes, I will be back tomorrow morning to up those downs for John Cena's final match, which I do think is very emotional, because I love that guy. I'll see you then.